Hi everyone and welcome back to Story Time. So today we're going to be reading this book and it's called Brandon and the Blarney Stone and it's from the O'Brien Press Leprechaun Land series and it's written by Stephen Walsh and Marita O'Donovan and illustrated by Diane Feyer. So listen along and we can read it together. Long ago the leprechauns came to a place where a river gleamed along the rolling hills and tall trees grew. There, hidden from the human world, on a carpet of shamrocks at the rainbow's end, they made it their home and called it Beg. If you ever walk close by, you might see a wisp of smoke from their turf fires or hear their music whispering in the wind. Search forever, but you will never find Beg, for it is well hidden by the leprechauns, who use their magic to keep it a secret. But look out, the leprechauns may be closer than you think. Brandon the leprechaun lived in the village of Beg. There he made beautiful musical instruments, and the walls of his little shop were festooned with barons, uilleann pipes, tin whistles, fiddles and bows. The instruments that Brandon made played music that was sweeter than the sweetest songbird. The leprechauns travelled from the four corners of Ireland to buy his wares, for they knew they were the best in the land. Brandon himself liked to play the tin whistle, and when he played, everyone stopped to listen. The lilt of his music was so lovely that it touched the very hearts of those who heard it. However, Brandon had a problem. The moment he opened his mouth to speak, everything went wrong. His words came out in a terrible jumble, and he always said the wrong thing. This caused Brandon a lot of bother. If he went to buy cheese, he might come home with peas. And once, when he went to buy a hat, he came home with a cat. Fortunately, the cat became a beloved pet to Brandon. Every Saturday night, the leprechauns and the fairies gathered for a great ceilidh, where they danced and sang until daybreak. Brandon and his three friends, Murphy, Mossy and Marty, made up the band. Murphy played the uilleann pipes, Mossy played the fiddle, and Marty played the baron. Brandon played the tin whistle, and of course, one of those who loved to listen to Brandon play was the beautiful fairy Nuala, who came to the ceilidh every single Saturday. Brandon was always delighted to see Nuala sitting nearby, tapping her toe in time with the music and smiling towards him. How he longed to ask Nuala to dance, but he was too afraid to even speak to her for friendly say. Brandon went to visit Ciara, the oldest leprechaun in Beg. So old that he knew the answers to most questions. When Ciara heard Brandon's problem, he laughed and said, "Brandon, you must kiss the Blarney Stone. That will give you the gift of the gab and the eloquence beyond your dreams." The very next day, Brandon set about making a plan to kiss the famous stone, and Murphy, Mossy and Marty agreed to help him. And that was how the four leprechaun band members found themselves hiding in a little thicket, watching a group of tourists get out of a bus a mile from Beg. Of course, the tourists didn't realise how close they were to the leprechaun's well-hidden home. That would have made their holiday even more special. "Who are all these people?" said Mossy. "They are visitors from other lands," Murphy explained, "who come to see all the wonderful sights of Ireland." While the visitors were off having lunch, the four leprechauns hopped aboard the bus and tucked themselves under a seat, where no one would see them. Brandon had bought a pocket full of gold coins. A leprechaun never knows when they might come in handy. And Marty had brought some cheese and shamrock sandwiches. "Please pass the peas and hard rock sandwiches," said poor Brandon. In no time at all, the visitors trooped back onto the bus, and the journey to Blarney began. The leprechauns were very comfortable under the seat, where they had great view of everyone's shoes. They could hear the tourists chatting away, admiring the mountains and rivers, the green fields, the farms, the castles and the round towers. Then a lady sitting right above Brandon said, "I haven't seen a single leprechaun since I came to Ireland." The man beside her replied, "Well, you better keep looking out that window if you want to catch a glimpse of one." Brandon, Murphy, Mossy and Marty tried to stifle their laughter. Imagine, the visitors were looking out of the window for leprechauns, and four of them were under the seat the whole time. At last they arrived at the village of Blarney in County Cork. The sun shone and all the passengers, including four rather small ones, got off the bus. the tourists started lining up to go into the castle to kiss the Blarney Stone. Brendan and his friends sat down on a bench and tried to figure out how to get inside without anyone seeing them. There was no obvious entrance for leprechauns. Then Murphy spotted a tattered old coat thrown over the bench, and it gave him an idea. Why don't we stand on each other's shoulders and put this coat over us? Then we can look like one of the big people. So Marty stood on Brendan's shoulders, then Mossy stood on Marty's shoulders, and Murphy stood on Mossy's shoulders, and they all hoisted the old coat around them. There was some money in the pocket, which they used to pay the admission fee, and apart from a few strange looks from the lady selling the tickets, they managed to make it up the steps, more than 100 of them, to the top of the castle. The leprechauns hid in a corner and watched the tourists kissing the Blarney Stone. Now, the stone is set into the battlements at the top of the castle, and in order to kiss it, you must lie on your back with somebody holding onto you so you don't slip. There are railings just below to stop people falling to the ground, but oh dear, a little leprechaun might easily slide through them. At last, the visitors were going back down the steps. Murphy had another idea. Brendan, grab hold of the sleeve of the coat and we'll use it to swing you on to kiss the stone. We'll swing you 3 times to make sure you manage it. So Murphy, Mossy and Marty held firmly onto the coat and swung it out across the battlements, with Brendan clutching tightly to the sleeve. Murphy counted 1. The sleeve swung out with Brendan hanging on, but his eyes were shut and he missed the stone. 2. There was a rip sounding as the stitching in the coat started to come apart, and Brendan, startled by the noise, missed it again. 3. The ripping sounded a lot louder, but Brendan managed to stretch out his neck and give the Blarney Stone a great big kiss. Phew, said Murphy, as they hauled Brendan back to safety, and they all laughed and danced around happily in a big circle. They grabbed the coat and dragged it down the steps of the castle. Then they put it back where they had found it on the bench. They could see all the visitors getting back onto the bus for the journey home. Come on, said Mossy, we have to run for the bus. Just a minute, said Brendan, who was busy filling the pockets of the coat with gold coins. This old coat was a lucky find for us. On the homeward journey, Murphy, Mossy and Marty had to shh Brendan at least 20 times. The gift of the gab was working, and he was talking 19 to the dozen, thrilled with his new powers of communication. The 4 friends ran home to the fields of Ballynadini Beg, where it was time for the weekly ceilidh. The other leprechauns and fairies were overjoyed to see Brendan and his band back again. After a couple of jigs and reels, Brendan asked Nuala to dance, and she accepted with delight. He told her of his adventures without mixing up his words, and how he had kissed the Blarney Stone, and they danced and they danced. Meanwhile, far away in Blarney, the old man, who hadn't had a lucky day for years, spied the coat lying on the bench. Well, aren't I the lucky one, finding this grand old coat, he said. You can imagine how lucky he felt a few seconds later, when he put on the coat and put his hands into the pockets.